When it comes to developing a game, it's recommended to keep sprites in the same place during their animation. This means that when you animate a character, they don't actually move forward in the canvas. Sometimes you have to break this rule, but when you do, the sprite teleports after its animation finishes. So, how do you return the sprite to its original place? By using root motion. Meshes have roots, like origins, which usually don't move with animations, but root motion enables the center of the mesh, or character, to move with the animation. Unity supports 3D and 2D root motion, and it's just like a checkbox or two. Sadly, Godot only supports 3D, not 2D root motion. So let's make our own simple version using keyframes in the AnimationPlayer and our very own root. I'll use my own example so you can follow along. Before we start, this is optional, but I like to create a sprite 2D to display where the character's true position is located, which I call the origin. This helps debug, as you can see, how far the root is from the origin. Now, create a node inside the character, preferably a sprite 2D to show where the root actually is. In the AnimationPlayer, keyframe the position of the root according to the sprite. If you find that you cannot keyframe the position of the root if it keeps going back to where it was before, change the blending mode to discrete instead of continuous. Continuous is better if you can get it to work, but I couldn't personally. Next, we will write some simple code so that the character goes to the position of the root and then resets the root's position. The position of the root is local to the scene it is in, so do not teleport to the position of the root. Instead, add the position of the root to the position of the character. Also, be sure to account for the size of the character, since we are working with local positions. When I import my character's scene into another node, I make him a third of the size, so you have to account for that. Finally, we have to call this function whenever an animation ends, starts, switches, whatever. I can't say exactly which one because this is case sensitive and annoying. You have to test yourself which works best according to your game's set FPS and means of switching between animations. For me, the only consistent choice was to call the check root function at the start of neutral animations, idle animations, walk animations, etc. Whatever the player has to return to before they use another move. You could call check root every time you switch states. For my fencing character, I only had to call it when movement animations ended. You could call check root on the reset animation and travel to that every time you switch states. But as you can see, it causes brief teleporting between animations for me, which you can't even see in a 30 FPS video anyways. You could use signals from the animation tree to know when you're switching states and then call it there. You could do a lot of things. Find which way works best for your game and you have yourself some simple 2D root motion because Godot just doesn't want to support it, apparently. Once you keyframe everything correctly, no one will be able to tell that you had to do this much work just to keep the character in one spot.